Hello, welcome this time to the Vroom Room. Let's go. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Rheum Room, this time from my car. Unlike James Corden, I am not pretending to drive, so don't worry. I'm parked up at a service station on my way to Wales to teach recognising rheumatology tomorrow, which sounds like it's going to be good fun. The weather has improved, luckily for me. It was looking rather poor prior, but you can see by my trendy sunglasses here that the sun has come out and everything is drying up nicely, so hopefully that shall continue. So today for this room I thought that I would discuss something that I think is maybe overlooked quite a lot by therapists, especially on my courses. People seem to be surprised by the numbers involved with the patients. So that thing is psoriasis and its relationship to psoriatic arthritis. Psoriatic arthritis itself is relatively rare in the general population, much more rare than, say, rheumatoid arthritis. And as a result, I think doesn't get the recognition or the screening that maybe it warrants. It also, interestingly, doesn't have its own real dedicated patient advocacy group. So for rheumatoid arthritis, for example, NRAS are a fantastic resource, both for clinicians and patients, but also advocating for the condition. And the same can be said for axial spondyloarthritis, which would be NAS, the National Axial messing up my speech. National Axial Spondyloarthritis Society, who will advocate very well for spondylitis, and interestingly, psoriatic arthritis is in itself a spondyloarthritis, although most will be what we would term peripheral, so most of the manifestations of the condition would be in the periphery rather than the axial spine, so the cervical spine, thoracic spine, lumbar spine and sacroiliac joints. So it does fall under the remit of NAS, but it is a smaller component, and I think whilst they have had campaigns which do advocate for psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, it does seem to fall through the cracks a little bit. So, like I said, psoriatic arthritis itself is relatively uncommon in the general population. But if you look at the population of people who have psoriasis already, it's actually quite a common condition for them to develop at some point during their lifetime. So if you look at someone who has psoriasis, the likelihood of them going on to develop an arthritis related to that is approximately 25%. It does vary quite significantly depending on the definition you use for what constitutes developing the arthritis, but some studies have shown anywhere from between 6 to 40% even. So I usually tend to stick around 25%. So 1 in 4 over their lifetime are going to develop a related arthritis. Now that to me is that's a pretty high likelihood, and I see absolutely no problem with counselling people on this when they come into clinic if they have ongoing psoriasis. That they should look out for specific symptoms. Things like multiple tendinopathies are related to psoriatic arthritis. It is primarily an enthesitic condition. Dactylitis, so swelling of an entire digit, very, very swollen, is another key indicator, as well as proximal arthritis as well, of the fingers, the feet, etc., the knees, which we can talk about in another room when we have the time to go over those things. But within that, I think that means that in our therapy clinics, I would advocate for screening skin symptoms, or as I learnt recently from my good friend Andrew Cuff, the intergomentary system, which is anything to do with the skin. Try saying that after a beer or two. And with regards to that, obviously in rheumatology, we're looking especially at psoriasis, but also in other conditions, there are specific types of rashes, which again we can cover. And then across other connective tissue disorders, then you can have some problems with the skin there as well. So it is something that we should be screening. And certainly I would advocate for any patient that comes into clinic, just asking them about their skin and whether they have any skin symptoms. So I will say, have you ever had any problems with psoriasis or eczema or dry, itchy patches of skin? And it can be a very small amount of psoriasis as well. It doesn't have to be very widespread. It can just be a little bit in the scalp or on the extensor of the elbows, for example. And I think in those patients, like I said, there's a few reasons why we might want to screen for that. And one of the reasons, like I said, is the possibility that you would bring into your clinical reasoning that psoriatic arthritis might be something that would tie all the symptoms that are presenting together. But also, patients who have, or people that have psoriasis, they tend to be very bothered by their psoriasis. I mean, for one, it can be very itchy, very painful. A lot of people will find it quite unsightly, or feel like they are unsightly because of it. And because of that reason, they have quite a higher rate of mental health problems in the psoriasis population. And certainly if you look at something like qualitative research into psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, then the psoriasis tends to be the big problem that the patients will report, or what they struggle with. They tend to be less bothered by their joints when the ongoing psoriasis is there. So I would say, screen for that, ask them if they have any problems with psoriasis. Have they ever been to a dermatologist? Would they like to go to a dermatologist? It's certainly something that can be managed with either creams or medications if it's severe enough, and they don't have to necessarily live with it as it is. There are quite a lot of options for it to improve. So that's what I would advocate to do, is to add the intergomentary system into all screening questions. It doesn't take very long. It's certainly not going to require you to add 5 minutes to your assessment times, and it's something that I think we do miss out on a lot. Certainly I can think of referrals in the last week, for example, where it's not been asked and actually it was relevant in my own practice, and purely by chance it didn't change what I did with the referral, but it wouldn't have taken much for it to make me start thinking down a different line. So it's something that we should be incorporating into our assessments. If you want any further information on psoriatic arthritis, there is some on my website, rheumatology.physio. You can find a blog on there, which... No, there isn't. If you want further information on psoriatic arthritis, then some of the extra-articular features, like we talked about, the dactylitis and the enthesitis, or the tendinopathies, they are on the blog, which is entitled Extra-Articular Features of Spondyloarthritis, although it's specifically a little bit more written towards axial spondyloarthritis as its flavour. But there is more detail in my audiobook, which you can find on my shop. So if you wanted a bit more detail there, then you can purchase that. Just head to my website again, rheumatology.physio, click on the little button that says shop, and that'll take you right there. I hope you've enjoyed this Vroom Room. I'll keep trying to keep up the puns as long as I can keep them going, and I'm hoping to get another video done for you guys when I get to the end of my journey here on my way to Wales, where we'll be doing something a little bit different. So I hope to see you out on the next video. Don't forget, if you do a like on the little video here, comment any questions that you'd like me to answer. I'll take anything about arthritis, rheumatology. Give me the questions. It's much easier for me to answer something that's been given, and I'll endeavour to do that on the next video, and share it with your friends and colleagues. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you out on the next video.